Сотовый телефон есть у вас?
Нету.
Нет. Колющие лезвия есть предмет у вас?
Нет.
Сумки?
Тоже нет.
Нету, пожалуйста. Колющие лезвия запрещенные.
The reinforced steel door closes automatically behind you as you pass through the first security post. This is the only way in, and visitors can only get out again through the same door, accompanied by a guard. The prison, known as Bishkek Central, is located in the city center. With its impenetrable walls and iron-barred windows, the only sounds that disturb the peace are the wail of a siren and the clank of automatic locks. This isn't a prison lorry. It's against the rules for them to be let in. It's a car bringing medicines. It's easy to be kind and merciful when it's somebody else. But when it concerns you, you look at it differently. This home video footage shows Nargiza celebrating her birthday. Just 3 weeks later, this young girl will be murdered on the doorstep of her own home. In all her 20 years, my little girl never hurt or upset anyone. In Nargiza's room, everything remains as it was 6 years ago. She was murdered in the same year that she was planning to be married. But it was then commuted to life imprisonment. In 20 years, he should be released. Every single day of my life is a punishment to me. This is not a musical instrument, but a metal detector. The volume at which it sings depends on the amount of metal in your pocket. If it's in the sleeve, it will be like that, then yes. But if it's hidden somewhere in the middle, like that, then it's unlikely. Even with permission from the ministry, we are subjected to numerous checks. That's prison rules. The prison in Bishkek goes several stories underground, and it's like entering a cellar. On the lowest floor, the guard changes. Our new escort has no uniform and turns out to have been a former traffic policeman. 5 years ago, he swapped his job with the police for the prison service. A long concrete corridor and a row of surveillance cameras keep watch over a very special group of prisoners, prisoners who have been sentenced to the firing squad. When the death penalty was read out, I stood up calmly and smiled. "Give me a cigarette," I said, and I smoked, smiling calmly. There was silence in the courtroom. All the relatives were there. And the father of the victim came up to me and said, "Son, why are you smiling?" He didn't shout or scream, he just came up and said, "Son, why are you smiling?" And I said, "I've earned my punishment." I was calm. As I said at the beginning, I was calm. And then I wasn't so calm. In the cell, I paced up and down like a madman. In 1987, Baish was sentenced to death. In 1988, his death sentence was commuted to 20 years life imprisonment, and he was sent to Kyrgyzstan. I was in the cellar from 1988 to 1989. They didn't keep you there for long. A year and a half. They would move you out of there straight away, either to Almaty or they'd commute your sentence. It wasn't like it is now. In those days, there were 8 to 10 people living in 16 cells. The jingling of keys and the grating of bolts is always a big event on death row. They say it's what they've been waiting for, but it still frightens them each time. Mirrors are strictly forbidden here, but they provide the answer to the all-important question: who have they come for? Alexandra has been on death row for 5 years. He was found guilty of murdering in a jealous rage. It took him a long time to register that the death sentence was being read out to him, not somebody else.
Конечно, грех совершил, да, но вот один труп и...
Committed a great sin, but it was one murder, and my first crime.
Почему не дадут?
Why don't they let a person think and come to their senses instead of doing away with them? They don't give you a second chance. Shouldn't happen for a first crime. You've probably noticed that the majority of us here are first-timers. What does first-timer mean?
Большинство.
Well, for your first conviction, they send you straight to the cellar. What is the cellar?
Первая судимость
The death sentence.
и
So that's what it's called, is it? Yes.
высшая мера.
The prison cells on death row haven't changed for dozens of years. Bunks, a toilet, a small table, and double bars. A dim light bulb takes the place of daylight. The death penalty has not been carried out in Kyrgyzstan since 1998. Prisoners in the cells now have to take it in turns to get some sleep.
Вот эти смертные камеры, там...
There are beds for 32 prisoners in those cells.
Будучи начальником следственного изолятора. Вот. Эти, они...
They were built back when I was head of the remand prison.
Содержание...
They meet all the standards for the incarceration of prisoners sentenced to death.
Но в связи с тем,
But because the remand prison currently holds 138 people, they need to be put somewhere else.
138 человек, то их...
They can't all fit into 32 spaces.
Два места, они не вместятся же.
В том же далеком 90...
In 1998, it was decided that new prisons needed to be built. There were plans for 14 of them.
В Уголовно-исправительном кодексе наметили конец
The law
строительства.
stated that these should be completed by 2005, but this didn't happen. And now there are 4 prisoners to a bed in Bishkek's remand prison.
Человека на койку смертника.
Этот сезон давно...
The cells in this remand prison were built a long time ago and weren't designed to keep the prisoners apart. It wasn't stipulated that they had to be accommodated separately.
Кто получил исключительную меру наказания.
The cells were built for prisoners facing the death sentence, and this is where they were incarcerated from the moment that sentence was pronounced to the moment of its execution.
До принятия решения
And this is where we must keep them for that period of time.
вперед мы должны их были здесь содержать.
Almost no visits are allowed. Occasionally, with written permission, prisoners are allowed out for a medical examination. They're also allowed to borrow books. They mainly ask for detective and adventure novels. They read a lot. Sometimes they even ask for religious literature. They don't damage the books. The punishment for that is strict but straightforward. No more books.
Вот это у нас пищеблок. Здесь столовая. Заметьте, мы...
Here is the kitchen and canteen. The menu here rarely changes
Каша, в основном перловка.
and is usually pearl barley and borscht soup. Food is a bit tight, but supplemented by homegrown supplies, all cooked in large cauldrons that date back to the Soviet period.
Власти.
The cooks pour the food into huge saucepans, which are taken to the condemned prisoners.
ИМН отнесут смертникам.
Хлопцы, держите.
I've got 4, 1 married. No, I have no sons, no work, no flat, nothing. This is the last photograph taken of her son, in his police uniform, probably from his personal file. Over the last 10 years, the print has begun to fade. Clemente has been on death row since 1998. They let us have 1 visit a month, and it's through a glass window. She is convinced that Clemente is innocent.
По материалам дела
A
бывший
former major in the police, he was accused and convicted of robbing and killing a number of businessmen.
пенсия
Tatiana spends nearly all her pension on her son.
продала давно.
She sold her flat long ago and now lives in a hostel.
Для приговоренного
She is the only person who visits him.
Хоть падаешь,
I often fall,
будто у меня
but it's as if somebody helps me up and says, "Get up,
говорит, вставай.
don't stay lying down."
Я вот стою.
Although there's no hope she'll be allowed a visit,
воротам она пойдет
she still goes to the prison.
рождения сына.
Today is her son's birthday, and she has made him his favorite carrot salad.
Салат.
Сегодня я говорю, манты наварила.
Today I made ravioli
И эти, как его,
and bought 3 cakes and a salami. Her bid to see her son is unsuccessful. But the week flies past. She gets another parcel together and is once again traveling the well-trodden path between home and prison.
Постой! Ач!
The murder of a deputy at a prison colony was a reminder of the problems facing the country's prisons.
Убийство
After the murder of the deputy, officialdom and society in general paid more attention to us, and financing got better. Financing from the prison system got a little better. Some repairs and improvements were made and some pipes were replaced, but there was still not enough money for new cells. The largest cell is 179. I know all the cells, the dimensions, everything. 23 is over there, 150, 170, 169. They're all only designed for 2 people. Sometimes checks are made. A commission comes in to check the sanitary conditions, and if there are complaints, then there will be a visit from the ombudsman.
Салам алейкум. Здравствуйте. Иностранцы есть? Граждане. Кто больше года сидит, есть?
Они же
На что жалуются?
Usually the complaints aren't very serious. They want to talk to someone, you know, that sort of thing.
поговорить, понимаешь?
Казнь надо давно отменить.
Половина здесь можно,
Давно
бедно,
отменить
что
надо.
сидят, половина здесь.
Это первый показатель именно вот, в государстве. Вот, именно.
Я в тяжких обвиняюсь. Я не отрицаю, я участвовал. Нарколог. Я не отрицаю, я участвовал, да, в разбоях. Но я, где убийство прошло, я не...
Another turn and another corridor. It feels as if the whole prison is a series of corridors and steel doors. Some of them aren't even properly closed.
А много жаппайсыңар, что стоите? Зайдите туда.
You gradually get used to the constant racket. They say that even on the outside, the sound of the doors never leaves you.
Наверное, если бы я...
Probably, if I didn't have the background that I have, my Soviet upbringing, I would probably be for change.
Я, наверное, за то, чтобы отменить.
Everyone here has a story to tell. Some protest their innocence loudly, whilst others just wait in silence for the guard to take them on their final journey. We didn't know what day it would be. For example, it might be days ending in a 3, the 23rd or the 13th. They would come on the 23rd, and when they came, we couldn't say goodbye or all the best. We couldn't say anything. We just remained silent on those days. It's a sort of torture. If they're convinced that we really are guilty, then why don't they just shoot us? In 2005, the moratorium on the death sentence was extended again, but this time for complete abolition. In the Ministry of Justice, a white paper has been prepared commuting the death sentence to life imprisonment.
Если этот закон будет принят, то каждого осужденного...
If this law is adopted, every prisoner who has been sentenced to death will have his case and the length of his sentence reviewed.
Это очень важный момент.
It is very important that each one knows that one day he may be released.
Каждый из них попасть на свободу.
But even if the law is adopted, life inside these concrete cells is unlikely to change. A special facility for prisoners sentenced to life imprisonment is a very distant prospect. In Kyrgyzstan, no one has been executed for 9 years, but there are 174 condemned prisoners in the remand prison. There would be even more, but 70 have died through illness or suicide, and 35 have had their sentences commuted. 2 death penalties. Yes, both of them are mine. There aren't any more, are there? Judge Narambieva has handed down 7 death sentences. 2 of them have been carried out. The number of people sentenced to death continues to rise. In 2005, 19 death sentences were handed out by Kyrgyzstan's judges. In 2006, it was 25, and figures for this year are similar. The first time was as terrible as the last time, the 7th time. You read the sentence, your voice and your hands shake, your mouth goes dry, and then when you get back to your office, it takes a long time for you to pull yourself together. Another 2 hearings for very serious crimes await her in the courtroom. When you hear it all for yourself, you have to agree that the people who have committed these terrible crimes deserve to be punished. And I don't think incarcerating someone for the rest of their life is more humane.
Как признаются сами
As the judges themselves admit, there is no guarantee against judicial error.
в 1976 году
In 1976, Sonny Jacobs and her husband, Jess DeFaro, were sentenced to death in Florida, USA.
в 1992 году
In 1992, Sonny was fully exonerated, but her husband had been executed on the 4th of May, 1990, 2 years earlier.
С точки зрения религии, с точки зрения практики, да, о том, что...
From a religious and practical point of view, the death penalty has not produced the results that we had hoped for. For a long time, it has no longer been a deterrent factor. So we need to look at this punishment in terms of its effectiveness. Some prisoners just want the sentence to be carried out because they're so tired of waiting. Others ask the